Welcome to Stories by Ajibs. If you love stories of karma, revenge, and justice, you're in the right place. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss our explosive tales. Now, let's dive into today's story. The bedroom door crashed open at 2:47 a.m. Amara Okonkwo jolted awake, her 6 months pregnant belly shifting uncomfortably as she scrambled to sit up. Her husband Chike stood in the doorway, his tie loosened, reeking of expensive perfume that definitely wasn't hers. But it was the woman behind him, draped in a red dress that screamed money and arrogance, that made Amara's blood freeze. "Chike," Amara's voice cracked. "What's happening?" He didn't even look guilty. That was the part that shattered her most. His eyes were cold, distant, like she was a stranger instead of the woman who'd stood by him for 5 years, who'd worked double shifts as a logistics coordinator to pay his business school tuition, who'd celebrated every small victory in his career at Apex Innovations. "Pack your things," Chike said flatly. "You're leaving tonight." The woman behind him, tall, light-skinned, dripping in gold jewelry, smiled. Actually smiled. She wrapped her manicured fingers around Chike's arm possessively. "Wait, what?" Amara pressed her hand against her belly, feeling their baby kick as if sensing the danger. "Chike, I don't understand. Is this some kind of joke?" "Do I look like I'm joking?" He pulled an envelope from his jacket pocket and tossed it onto the bed. It landed near her swollen feet. "Divorce papers. Sign them." The room spun. Amara gripped the bedsheet, her knuckles white. "Divorce? Chike, I'm 6 months pregnant with your child. We've been married for 5 years." "5 years of what?" The woman in red stepped forward, her heels clicking against the wooden floor. "5 years of you being a burden? Please. Chike deserves better than some low-level employee who can barely afford decent clothes." Amara's eyes widened. Low-level employee? She almost laughed at the irony, but the pain crushing her chest made it impossible. This woman had no idea who she was talking to. Nobody did, and that had been intentional. "Who is she?" Amara forced herself to ask, though part of her already knew. She'd seen this woman before in the company cafeteria, at corporate events, always hovering near the executive floor. "My name is Vanessa Akali," the woman announced with pride. "Chike's colleague at Apex Innovations. We work in the same department. Unlike you, I actually understand his ambitions. I can help him climb higher." Chike nodded, his jaw set. "Vanessa gets me, Amara. She's educated, sophisticated, and she doesn't embarrass me at company functions." "Embarrass you?" Amara's voice rose despite her attempt to stay calm. "I've supported every dream you've ever had. I worked myself to exhaustion to put you through business school when you had nothing. I celebrated when you got hired at Apex, even though—" She stopped herself. Even though she'd been the one to ensure his application reached the right desk. Even though she'd been the one to approve his hearing. Even though she owned the very company he worked for. But he didn't know that. Nobody did. 3 years ago, when Amara had inherited her father's tech empire, she'd made a decision. She would work within her own company anonymously, using her mother's maiden name, Okonkwo instead of Ademi. She wanted to see the true character of people without the filter of wealth and power. She wanted to know if Chike loved her for her, not for her money. Now she had her answer, and it was destroying her. "Even though what?" Chike snapped. "You've never done anything special, Amara. You're just a logistics coordinator. Vanessa is senior management. She has connections. She has class." Vanessa smirked, examining her nails. "Chike and I are in love. We've been together for 8 months. And frankly, we're tired of sneaking around. You're in the way." 8 months. Amara's hand instinctively went to her belly. Their baby had been conceived around that time. While she was celebrating their new pregnancy, he was already in another woman's bed. "You brought her here," Amara whispered, looking around their bedroom, their sacred space. "Into our home." "It's my home," Chike corrected coldly. "My name is on the lease, and after you sign those papers, it'll legally be mine and Vanessa's home. We're getting married next month." Amara felt tears threatening, but she forced them back. She wouldn't cry in front of them. She wouldn't give them that satisfaction. "What about our baby?" she asked quietly. Chike's expression didn't change. "That's your problem. I never wanted it anyway. You trapped me with that pregnancy, thinking it would save our dying marriage. It didn't." The cruelty of his words hit her like physical blows. Vanessa actually laughed, a high, tinkling sound that made Amara's skin crawl. "Honestly," Vanessa said, "you should be grateful he's even letting you leave with dignity. Some men would just throw you out on the street." Amara stood slowly, her body trembling, not from fear, but from rage she'd never felt before. She looked at Chike, really looked at him, and saw a stranger. The man she'd loved, supported, and built a life with had been replaced by this cruel, heartless imposter. "I need time," Amara said steadily, "to process this, to find somewhere to go." "You have until morning," Chike said. "I want you gone before I leave for work, sign the papers and go." He turned to leave, Vanessa attached to his side like a parasite. At the door, Vanessa looked back, her eyes gleaming with victory. "Oh, and Amara." Vanessa's smile was venomous. "Don't even think about asking Chike for child support. With his connections at Apex and my family's lawyers, you won't see a kobo. You'll raise that baby in poverty, exactly where women like you belong." The door slammed shut. Amara stood alone in the bedroom, her hand on her belly, her heart shattered into a million pieces. She looked at the divorce papers on the bed, at the man she'd loved signing away their marriage like it meant nothing. Then she looked at her phone on the nightstand. One call. That's all it would take. One call to her assistant, Marcus, and Chike's entire world would implode. He'd lose his job, his reputation, everything. But something stopped her, a realization crystallizing through her pain. Revenge would be sweeter if he destroyed himself. And she knew exactly how to make that happen. Amara picked up her phone and made a different call, not to Marcus, but to her private driver. She'd leave tonight, just as Chike demanded, but she wouldn't be running away. She'd be preparing for war. As she packed her essentials, her baby kicked again. She placed both hands on her belly, making a silent promise. "Your father doesn't want us," she whispered. "But that's okay, because he has no idea who your mother really is. And by the time I'm done, he'll spend the rest of his life regretting this night." Outside, a black Mercedes pulled up, one of 3 luxury cars she owned that Chike had never seen. The driver, Samuel, had worked for her family for 20 years. He loaded her bags without questions, his face tight with controlled anger. "Where to, madam?" Samuel asked. "The penthouse," Amara replied, sliding into the backseat. "And Samuel, tomorrow morning I need you to deliver something to Apex Innovations, an announcement. It's time everyone knew the truth." Samuel's reflection in the rearview mirror showed a grim smile. "About time, if you ask me, madam." As the car pulled away from the house she'd called home, Amara didn't look back. She was done being the humble, accommodating wife. Done hiding who she was. Done protecting a man who'd thrown her away like garbage. Chike wanted sophisticated, educated, connected. He was about to discover he'd been married to the most powerful woman in Lagos's tech industry. And she was about to teach him the most expensive lesson of his life. 3 weeks later, Chike Okonkwo strutted into Apex Innovations like he owned the building. His new Armani suit, purchased with Vanessa's money, fit perfectly, and his confidence had tripled since freeing himself from what he called dead weight. "Morning, Mr. Okonkwo," the receptionist chirped. He barely acknowledged her. Ever since his relationship with Vanessa became public, people treated him differently. Vanessa's family had connections throughout Lagos's business elite, and dating her had opened doors Chike had only dreamed of. His phone buzzed. Vanessa's text made him smile. "Dinner at Civic Center tonight. My parents want to discuss the wedding. Wear the blue tie I bought you." Everything was perfect. The divorce papers were signed. Amara had left them on the kitchen counter the morning she disappeared. He'd heard through mutual acquaintances that she'd moved back to some small village to have the baby with her mother. Good riddance. "Chike." His colleague David clapped him on the shoulder. "Big meeting today. The CEO is finally coming out of hiding." Chike frowned. What do you mean? You haven't heard? David lowered his voice conspiratorially. The actual owner of Apex Innovations has been working here anonymously for 3 years. Nobody knows who it is. Some say it's a man, some say it's a woman. But today's the big reveal. Full company assembly at 10 a.m. Chike's stomach twisted slightly, though he didn't know why. Why would a CEO work anonymously in their own company? Who knows, rich people are weird, but whoever it is has been watching us this whole time, evaluating, deciding who deserves to stay and who gets cut. David shook his head. I've been on my best behavior for 3 years just in case. Chike laughed it off, but unease prickled at the back of his mind. Still, he had nothing to worry about. His performance reviews were excellent, Vanessa's family connections protected him, and he was about to marry into one of Lagos's most influential families. At 9:55 a.m., the entire company gathered in the main conference hall. Hundreds of employees whispered excitedly, speculation running wild. I heard it's Chief Adami's daughter, someone murmured behind Chike. No way, another replied. Chief Adami only had one child, and she's been living abroad for years. Chike found Vanessa near the front. She kissed his cheek, marking her territory. Whoever this CEO is better recognize talent when they see it. You deserve a promotion, baby. Absolutely, Chike agreed. I've worked hard here, time to climb higher. The lights dimmed. A hush fell over the crowd. Marcus, whom everyone knew as the company's administrative manager, stepped onto the stage. Chike had always found Marcus too serious, too intense. Now Marcus's expression was unreadable as he adjusted the microphone. Good morning, Apex Innovations family, Marcus began. Today marks a significant moment in our company's history. For 3 years, our CEO has walked among you, worked beside you, learned who you truly are when you think no one important is watching. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Chike felt Vanessa grip his hand. This experiment wasn't about distrust, Marcus continued. It was about truth, about building a company where integrity matters more than politics, where character counts more than connections. Our CEO wanted to see the real Apex Innovations, the good, the bad, and everything in between. A screen behind Marcus lit up, displaying the company logo. And now, Marcus said, his lips curving into something that might have been a smile, it's time for the truth. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the founder, owner, and CEO of Apex Innovations, Amara Adami. The name hit Chike like a thunderbolt. No, it couldn't be. The side door opened, and she walked out. Amara. His Amara. Except she wasn't his anymore, and she'd never been the woman he thought she was. She wore a tailored navy suit that screamed power and money. Her pregnancy was now at 8 months, beautifully displayed rather than hidden. Her natural hair was styled in elegant locks, and diamonds, real diamonds, not the fake ones Vanessa wore, glinted at her ears and throat. But it was her face that made Chike's world collapse. Gone was the soft, accommodating wife who tolerated his disrespect. This woman radiated authority, intelligence, and a cold fury that made the room's temperature drop. The applause was deafening. Employees who'd worked alongside, logistics coordinator Amara Okonkwo, stood in shock. Others, who'd apparently known her true identity, beamed with pride. Chike couldn't breathe. His vision tunneled. Beside him, Vanessa had gone completely still, her face drained of color. Amara walked to the microphone with the grace of someone who'd been born into power, because she had been. Chief Adami, the late tech mogul whose innovations had revolutionized Nigerian industry, had been her father. She'd inherited everything when he died 4 years ago. Thank you, Marcus. Amara's voice filled the hall, strong, confident, commanding. Good morning, everyone. I know this comes as a shock to many of you. For 3 years, I've worked in logistics, attended your meetings, eaten in the cafeteria, and observed how this company operates from the ground up. She paused, her eyes scanning the crowd. When they landed on Chike, he felt like he'd been struck by lightning. There was no warmth there, no forgiveness, only ice-cold calculation. I've learned so much, Amara continued, her gaze moving on. I've learned who treats our janitorial staff with respect and who treats them like they're invisible. I've learned who takes credit for others' work and who lifts their team up. I've learned who has integrity when no one powerful is watching and who only performs when they think it benefits their career. The room was silent enough to hear a pin drop. Today marks a new chapter for Apex Innovations, Amara said. We're expanding into new markets, launching innovative products, and most importantly, restructuring our leadership to reflect our values. Over the next few weeks, promotions will be announced for those who have demonstrated true excellence and character. Applause erupted again. Chike's hands felt numb. He couldn't clap, couldn't move. However, Amara's voice cut through the applause like a knife, there will also be terminations. This company has no room for those who have abused their positions, harassed colleagues, or engaged in unethical behavior. We're building a culture of respect, and anyone who can't meet that standard will be removed. Vanessa's grip on Chike's hand had become painful. He glanced at her. Sweat beaded on her upper lip. Marcus will schedule individual meetings with department heads over the next week, Amara concluded. Until then, continue your excellent work. Those of you who have been loyal, honest, and hardworking, you have nothing to fear. For everyone else. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. I suggest you update your resumes. The meeting ended. The crowd dispersed slowly, everyone whispering, speculating, nervous. Chike stood frozen. His mind raced through every interaction he'd had with logistics coordinator Amara Okonkwo at work. He'd barely spoken to her there. He'd been too busy climbing the ladder, networking with people he thought mattered. He'd never imagined. Chike, Vanessa's voice was panicked. Chike, we need to talk now. She dragged him into an empty conference room and slammed the door. That's her, Vanessa hissed. That's your ex-wife, the nobody you divorced. I didn't know, Chike whispered. His throat felt tight. I swear I had no idea. You told me she was a nobody, a low-level employee with no connections. Vanessa paced frantically. Do you know who Amara Ademi is? Her father revolutionized tech infrastructure across West Africa. She's worth billions, Chike, billions. The number didn't compute. Chike sank into a chair, his legs suddenly unable to support him. Why didn't you know? Vanessa demanded. How could you be married to someone and not know? She used her mother's name, Chike said numbly. Okonkwo, not Ademi. She never told me about her family. She said her parents died when she was young and she had no inheritance. She lived simply, modestly, I thought. He thought she was nothing. He'd treated her like she was nothing. And now she owned everything. This is bad, Vanessa said, her voice rising. This is really bad, Chike. Do you know what I did 3 months ago? Chike looked up at her. I filed a complaint about the logistics coordinator, about her, claiming she was incompetent and should be fired. I wanted her position eliminated so I could restructure the department. Vanessa's face had gone from pale to gray. I filed it with HR under my name. It's in the system. Chike felt something cold settle in his stomach. You tried to get my wife fired. Your ex-wife, and I didn't know she was the CEO, Vanessa shrieked. Then she seemed to catch herself, lowering her voice. Look, we need to fix this. You need to go apologize. Tell her it was all a mistake. Tell her you want her back. What? Chike stared at her. You just proposed we get married next month. That was before I knew she was Amara Ademi, Vanessa snapped. My family's wealth is nothing compared to hers. If you can get back in her good graces, we all benefit. Apologize, grovel, whatever it takes. Chike stood abruptly. No. No. Vanessa looked at him like he'd lost his mind. I'm not crawling back to her, Chike said, his pride flaring despite the fear churning in his gut. I don't care how rich she is. I left her because she wasn't good enough for me, and that hasn't changed. She's still the same woman, just with money I didn't know about. You're an idiot, Vanessa said flatly. A complete idiot. I have connections too, Chike insisted. Your family, my network, will be fine. She can't touch me. But even as he said it, doubt gnawed at him. A knock on the conference room door made them both jump. Marcus stood there, his expression professional but cold. Mr. Okonkwo, Ms. Akali, Marcus said. The CEO would like to see you both. Her office. Now. Oh no, Chike and Vanessa are about to face Amara. What do you think she's going to say to them? Drop your predictions in the comments. If you're loving this story, smash that like button and subscribe to Stories by Ajibs for the next chapter. Share this with your friends who need to see this. Don't miss the next chapter. Amara's office occupied the entire top floor of Apex Innovations. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Lagos's skyline, and the decor was a perfect blend of traditional Nigerian art and modern sophistication. Everything screamed wealth, power, and taste. Chike had never been to this floor before. Now he understood why. It had always been reserved for the CEO he'd never known was his wife. Marcus gestured for them to sit in the leather chairs facing Amara's massive mahogany desk. Wait here. The moment Marcus left, Vanessa started fidgeting with her jewelry. Chike noticed her hands were shaking. His own heart hammered against his ribs, but he forced himself to sit straight, chin up. He wouldn't show weakness, not to Amara, not after everything. The door opened. Amara entered, and the air pressure in the room seemed to change. She moved slowly, her pregnant belly prominent but not hindering her commanding presence. She didn't sit behind her desk. Instead, she leaned against it, arms crossed, studying them like a scientist examining specimens. The silence stretched for a full minute. Vanessa cracked first. Ms. Adami, I want to apologize for any misunderstanding. Be quiet, Amara said softly. Vanessa's mouth snapped shut. Amara's gaze shifted to Chike. You look surprised. Chike cleared his throat. I didn't know. Obviously. Amara's tone was neutral, almost conversational. That was the point. For 3 years, I worked alongside you as Amara Okonkwo, logistics coordinator. I ate in the same cafeteria, attended the same meetings, and you never once acknowledged my existence at work, did you? Chike's mind raced back. He'd been so focused on networking with senior management, on impressing Vanessa and her circle. The logistics department had been beneath his notice. I was busy with my own work, Chike said defensively. Busy taking credit for David's project proposals, Amara replied calmly. Busy padding your performance reviews with achievements from your team members. Busy having lunch meetings with Vanessa when you were supposed to be working. Yes, Chike, I saw everything. His blood ran cold. Amara pulled a folder from her desk and opened it. Let's talk about your employment here, shall we? You were hired 3 years ago. Your application was flagged as substandard. Your qualifications didn't meet our minimum requirements. But someone intervened. Someone ensured your application reached the hearing manager's desk with a personal recommendation. She looked up at him, and Chike saw the ghost of the woman who'd once loved him in her eyes. It made everything worse. That someone was me, Amara continued. I fought to get you this job, Chike. You were struggling after business school, depressed, losing hope. I couldn't bear to see you like that, so I used my authority to give you a chance. Shame burned through Chike's chest, but he pushed it down. I didn't ask you to do that. No, you didn't. You didn't ask for a lot of things I gave you. Amara closed the folder. I paid for your business school tuition. I worked double shifts while you studied. I celebrated every small victory with you. And when you finally landed this job, the job I gave you, you started treating me like I was beneath you. That's not, Chike started. Don't, Amara's voice hardened. Don't lie to me, not now. I was there, Chike. I heard every dismissive comment. Every time you told your friends your wife didn't understand ambition. Every time you were ashamed to have me at company events because I wasn't polished enough for your new circle. Vanessa shifted uncomfortably. Amara's attention snapped to her. And you, Ms. Akali, let's discuss your conduct. Vanessa straightened, trying to look confident. I haven't done anything wrong. Amara pulled out another folder. 3 months ago, you filed a complaint with HR recommending the termination of Amara Okonkwo, citing incompetence and poor performance. You suggested eliminating the entire logistics coordination position to cut costs. That was a legitimate business recommendation, Vanessa began. Based on what metrics? Amara interrupted. You never worked with the logistics department. You had no data on their performance. You filed that complaint 2 days after you learned Chike was married to a logistics coordinator. You wanted me erased from the company so you could have him without reminders of his wife. Vanessa's face flushed. You can't prove that. I don't need to prove anything, Amara said coldly. This is my company, but let's continue. Over the past 8 months, you've engaged in a workplace relationship that violated our fraternization policy. You've used company time and resources for personal matters. And 3 weeks ago, you participated in the humiliation and forced eviction of a pregnant woman from her home. She signed the divorce papers willingly. Vanessa protested. After you and Chike ambushed her at 2:47 a.m., brought your affair into her bedroom, and gave her until morning to leave or be thrown out, Amara replied. Yes, Ms. Akali, I know every detail of that night, because I was that pregnant woman you treated like garbage. The color drained from Vanessa's face. Now, Amara said, walking around her desk to sit in her chair, let's discuss your futures at Apex Innovations. Chike found his voice. You can't fire me because of our personal problems. That's wrongful termination. I'll sue. Amara smiled. It wasn't pleasant. Please do. I'd enjoy watching you try to sue me for wrongful termination when I have 3 years of documented performance issues, ethics violations, and policy breaches. Marcus, please come in. Marcus entered carrying a thick file and a tablet. Mr. Okonkwo, Marcus began, his tone professional. Over the past 18 months, you've been documented taking credit for your colleagues' work on 14 separate occasions. You've falsified expense reports 6 times. You've used company equipment for personal business ventures. And you've violated our workplace conduct policy through inappropriate relationships with colleagues. He set the tablet on the desk, showing timestamped screenshots and documents. Every email is logged, Marcus continued. Every security camera recorded, every complaint filed. The evidence is comprehensive. Chike felt his world tilting. This is a setup. You're targeting me because of our marriage. I'm holding you accountable for your choices, Amara corrected. Everything in this file happened before I served you divorce papers. You did this to yourself. She turned to Vanessa. Ms. Akali, your employment is terminated effective immediately. Security will escort you from the building. You'll receive 2 weeks severance, more than you deserve, but I'm feeling generous. The attempted termination complaint against a fellow employee based on personal vendetta violates our ethics code. That alone is grounds for dismissal. You can't do this, Vanessa stood abruptly. My family has connections. My father knows people on your board. Your father knows 3 board members, Amara said calmly. I control 7 seats. Math isn't in your favor. And frankly, after I inform your father that you were sleeping with a married man and tried to abuse your position to harm his wife, I doubt he'll be rushing to your defense. Vanessa's face crumpled. For the first time, her arrogance shattered, revealing the fear underneath. Please, I need this job. My family will disown me if I'm fired for cause. Please, Mrs. Adami. You should have thought about that before you stood in my bedroom and told me I'd raise my child in poverty, Amara replied without emotion. Before you laughed at my pain, before you tried to erase me from my own company, security is waiting outside. Marcus opened the door. 2 security officers stood ready. Vanessa looked at Chike desperately. Say something, defend me. But Chike couldn't speak. He was too busy calculating his own survival. Vanessa stumbled toward the door, tears streaming down her face. You'll regret this, she hissed at Amara. You're not as powerful as you think. We'll see, Amara said mildly. The door closed behind Vanessa and the security team. Now it was just Amara, Marcus, and Chike. As for you, Amara said, focusing back on Chike, your termination would be justified. However, I'm not going to fire you. Chike's head snapped up, hope flared in his chest. You're not. No, Amara said, because firing you would be too kind. Instead, you're being reassigned. Effective Monday, you'll be transferred to our warehouse facility in Port Harcourt. Entry-level position. Minimum wage. You'll report to a supervisor and handle inventory management. What? Chike couldn't believe what he was hearing. That's a demotion, a massive demotion. Yes, Amara agreed. It is. You'll also be stripped of your company car, your expense account, and your health club membership. Your benefits will be reduced to the standard entry-level package. This is your option, Mr. Okonkwo. Take it, or resign and explain to future employers why you left Apex Innovations. This is cruel, Chike said, his voice shaking with rage. You're punishing me for leaving you. I'm giving you exactly what you earned, Amara corrected. Every privilege you had here came from my intervention. Your job, your promotions, your opportunities, all of it. Now you'll see what you can achieve on your own merit. Consider it a learning experience. I won't do it, Chike said. I'll quit. That's your choice, Amara replied. But you should know that I've already contacted several companies in our industry. Let's just say your reputation precedes you now, and the severance you'd receive for quitting wouldn't be enough to support you for long, especially not with the lifestyle you've grown accustomed to with Vanessa's money. Chike stood, his chair scraping against the floor. You think you've won. You think because you have money, you can control me. I don't want to control you, Chike, Amara said tiredly. I just want you to face consequences for once in your life. You've spent 5 years taking from me, taking my money, my support, my love. You threw me away when I was pregnant because you thought you'd found someone better, someone with more status, more connections. She stood slowly, her hand resting on her pregnant belly. But here's what you didn't understand, Amara continued. I never needed rescuing. I never needed you to elevate me. I was already above you. I stayed with you because I loved you, because I thought we were building something real. But you only loved what you thought I could become, never who I was. I loved you, Chike said, but even he could hear how hollow it sounded. No, Amara said quietly. You loved my service, my sacrifice, my willingness to make myself small so you could feel big. The moment I couldn't serve you anymore, the moment you found someone who you thought could give you more, you discarded me. She walked to the window, looking out at the city. Port Harcourt or resignation, Amara said. You have until Friday to decide. Marcus will email you the details, that's all. I hate you, Chike said, the words bitter in his mouth. Amara didn't turn around. I know, but I sleep well knowing that I never have to see you again unless you're on a company roster. And even then, you'll be someone else's problem. Marcus opened the door. Mr. Okonkwo, this way. Chike left, his mind spinning, his pride in tatters, his future crumbling around him. 2 months later, Chike stood in the sweltering heat of the Port Harcourt warehouse, his shirt soaked with sweat, his hands blistered from moving inventory crates. The other workers, mostly young men fresh out of secondary school, treated him with a mixture of pity and contempt. They all knew his story. In the age of workplace gossip, news traveled fast. Mr. Okonkwo, his supervisor, a 26-year-old named Emeka, called out, Those shipment manifests won't process themselves. Get moving. Chike gritted his teeth and returned to the computer terminal. 6 weeks ago, he'd been wearing tailored suits and dining at expensive restaurants. Now he wore a sweaty company polo shirt and ate rice and stew from the local mama put. He'd refused the position at first, walked out of Amara's office swearing he'd never accept such humiliation. He'd gone home, to the apartment he'd once shared with Amara, the one Vanessa had moved into, expecting sympathy. Instead, he'd found his belongings in boxes on the sidewalk. Vanessa had texted him, My father found out everything. He's furious. We're done. Don't contact me again. My family's lawyers will be in touch about the money you owe me. Money he owed her. The suits, the dinners, the lifestyle he'd been living, all funded by Vanessa's credit cards, which he'd promised to pay back once he got his inevitable promotion. Now she wanted $15,000 he didn't have. His friends from the corporate circle stopped answering his calls. His professional network evaporated overnight. Job applications went unanswered. Amara's influence in the industry was deeper than he'd imagined. So he'd crawled back to Marcus, accepted the Port Harcourt position, and moved into a one-bedroom apartment that cost more per month than he now earned. His savings were depleting rapidly. "Chike," Emeka's voice cut through his thoughts. "Break time is over. The new shipment from Lagos needs to be logged by end of day." Chike nodded mutely and continued working. His phone buzzed in his pocket. Another creditor. He ignored it. During lunch, he sat alone under a tree outside the warehouse, eating his modest meal. His phone buzzed again. This time, it was a message from his sister, Ngozi. "Chike, what's going on? People are asking questions. They say you were fired. Mama is worried. Call me." He couldn't face his family, couldn't admit what he'd done. His mother had loved Amara, had been devastated when he announced the divorce. If she knew the full truth, that he'd thrown away a billionaire wife for a woman who dumped him the moment his status disappeared, she'd never forgive him. "Tough day," a voice interrupted his thoughts. Chike looked up. One of the warehouse workers, a young man named Tund, sat down beside him. "Every day is tough," Chike muttered. "I heard you used to work at headquarters in Lagos," Tund said. "Big office, big salary. What happened?" Chike almost laughed. What happened? He destroyed his own life through arrogance and stupidity. That's what happened. "Made some mistakes," Chike said vaguely. "Must have been big mistakes to end up here," Tund observed. "But hey, at least you have a job. My brother's been unemployed for 2 years, university degree and everything." The words were meant to be encouraging, but they only made Chike feel worse. He had squandered opportunities most people would kill for. His phone rang. Unknown number. Against his better judgment, he answered. "Mr. Okonkwo?" A crisp female voice. "This is Attorney Blessing Nwasu calling on behalf of the Akali family. We're pursuing legal action to recover the $15,000 you owe Miss Vanessa Akali, plus interest and legal fees. We've attempted to contact you multiple times." "I don't have that money," Chike said tiredly. "Then we'll be filing a lawsuit and seeking wage garnishment," the attorney replied coolly. "You'll be served papers within the week. Good day." The line went dead. Chike dropped his head into his hands. Wage garnishment. They'd take a portion of his already meager salary. He'd barely survive. That evening, Chike returned to his cramped apartment and found an envelope taped to his door. Inside was a letter from his landlord. Rent was increasing next month. He couldn't afford it. He sat on his worn couch, the only furniture he'd managed to keep, and for the first time since this nightmare began, Chike allowed himself to truly think about what he'd lost. Amara had never been the problem. He had been. She'd supported him, loved him, given him everything. And he'd treated her like an obstacle to his ambitions. He'd been so focused on climbing higher that he'd failed to see he was already standing on top of a mountain. His phone buzzed with a news alert. He almost ignored it, but the headline caught his eye. Apex Innovations CEO Amara Ademi announces major expansion and philanthropic initiative. He clicked the article. There was a photo of Amara at a press conference, radiant despite her advanced pregnancy. The article detailed Apex's expansion into renewable energy and a new foundation supporting single mothers and underprivileged families. At the bottom of the article was a quote from Amara. "I believe in second chances and supporting those who have been overlooked or underestimated. Everyone deserves an opportunity to build a better life, especially mothers raising children alone." Chike stared at the photo. Even now, even after everything he'd done, she was thinking about others, helping others, being the person she'd always been. What had he become? His pride had told him he deserved better than Amara, that she wasn't good enough. But the truth was the opposite. He had never been good enough for her. That night, Chike couldn't sleep. He kept seeing Amara's face, the hurt in her eyes when he'd thrown the divorce papers at her, the strength in her voice when she'd reassigned him, the grace in that press conference faux. By morning, he'd made a decision. He called Marcus, who answered on the third ring. "Mr. Okonkwo, is there a problem with your assignment?" "No," Chike said. "I'm calling to ask if I can request a meeting with Mrs. Ademi. Just 5 minutes. I need to apologize properly." There was a long silence. I'll pass along your message, Marcus said finally. But Mr. Okonkwo, I wouldn't get your hopes up. Mrs. Ademi is focused on her health and the baby. She's moved on. I understand, Chike said. Just please ask. 3 days later, Marcus called back. Mrs. Ademi has agreed to see you, this Saturday at 2 p.m. The Apex headquarters Lagos office. Don't be late. Chike spent his entire paycheck on a bus ticket back to Lagos. He couldn't afford it, but this was important. Maybe the most important thing he'd ever do. Saturday afternoon, he stood in the lobby of Apex Innovations, wearing his best clothes, which now looked shabby and worn. Marcus escorted him to a small conference room, not Amara's grand office. Wait here, Marcus said, and Mr. Okonkwo, don't waste her time. Chike nodded. 10 minutes later, Amara entered. She was 9 months pregnant now, moving carefully, one hand supporting her lower back. She looked exhausted but beautiful. She sat down across from him, her expression neutral. You have 5 minutes, she said. Speak. Chike had rehearsed this speech for days, but now all his prepared words fled. He looked at this woman, this incredible woman he'd thrown away, and felt shame crash over him like a wave. I'm sorry, he began, his voice cracking. I'm so sorry, Amara, for everything, for how I treated you, for the divorce, for bringing Vanessa into our home, for not seeing who you really were, for not appreciating what we had. Amara's expression didn't change. I was arrogant and stupid, Chike continued. I thought I deserved more than you. I thought climbing the corporate ladder and impressing people like Vanessa mattered. I was wrong about everything. You were always more than enough. You were everything, and I destroyed it. Is that all? Amara asked quietly. No, Chike said desperately. I want to make things right. I know I can't undo what I did, but maybe we can try again. For the baby. Our child deserves both parents. I can change. I will change. Please, Amara, give me another chance. Amara was quiet for a long moment. Then she leaned forward slightly. Chike, do you know what the worst part of our marriage was? He shook his head. It wasn't the disrespect or the cheating, Amara said. It was realizing that you never loved me. You loved what I could do for you. The support, the sacrifice, the way I made your life easier. But you never loved me as a person. You didn't even see me as a person. That's not true, Chike started. You didn't know my favorite color, Amara interrupted. You didn't know I was allergic to shellfish even though I told you a dozen times. You didn't know my father had died until after we were married because you never asked about my family. You didn't know anything about me because you never cared to learn. Each word was a knife to Chike's heart because they were all true. I don't hate you anymore, Amara continued. I did for a while, but now I just feel nothing. You're a stranger to me, and I'm finally okay with that. What about our baby? Chike asked desperately. Our baby will be fine, Amara said firmly. I have resources, support, and love to give. When the child is old enough to ask about you, I'll tell them the truth, that their father wasn't ready to be a parent. If you want to be involved in the future, we can discuss supervised visitation through lawyers. But you and I, we're done. She stood slowly, her hand on her belly. I hope you learn from this, Chike, Amara said. I hope you become a better person, but that journey has nothing to do with me. Goodbye. She walked toward the door, then paused. And Chike, stop trying to climb ladders. Try building something real instead. You might actually find happiness. Then she was gone. Chike sat alone in the conference room, tears streaming down his face, finally understanding what he'd lost. And knowing he'd never get it back. Wow, did Chike's apology come too late? Was Amara right to reject him? Tell us what you think in the comments. This story is almost over. One more chapter to go. Make sure you're subscribed to Stories by Ajibs so you don't miss the finale. Hit that like button if this chapter had you in your feelings. Share this video with someone who needs to see how karma works. 6 months later, the grand ballroom of the Eco Hotel sparkled with crystal chandeliers and elegant decorations. Apex Innovations was celebrating its 5th anniversary, and the event had drawn Lagos's business elite, tech innovators, and philanthropic leaders. Amara stood near the stage, her 4-month-old daughter Zara sleeping peacefully in her arms. The baby had her mother's eyes and a head full of dark curls. Amara had taken 3 months of maternity leave, then returned to work stronger and more focused than ever. "She's beautiful," said Mrs. Adebio, one of Apex's board members. "And you look radiant, Amara. Motherhood suits you." "Thank you," Amara smiled genuinely. "It's been challenging but rewarding. I have an excellent support system." Her mother, who'd moved to Lagos to help with the baby, waved from across the room. Beside her stood Marcus, who'd become not just Amara's assistant, but a trusted friend and Zara's godfather. The past 6 months had been transformative. Amara had launched the Ademi Foundation, providing scholarships and business grants to single mothers and underprivileged entrepreneurs. Apex Innovations had expanded into 3 new African countries, creating thousands of jobs. And personally, Amara had found peace. She'd stopped looking over her shoulder, waiting for Chike to reappear. She'd stopped carrying the pain of his betrayal like a weight on her chest. She'd simply moved forward, building the life she and her daughter deserved. "Mrs. Ademi," a familiar voice said behind her. Amara turned. David, Chike's former colleague who'd been genuinely talented and kind, stood there with a nervous smile. "David, how are you?" Amara shifted Zara gently. "I heard about your promotion. Congratulations on making senior project manager." "Thank you," David said. "I wanted to thank you personally. That promotion changed my life, and I wanted you to know I never agreed with how Chike treated people, especially you." "I know," Amara said warmly. "Your work spoke for itself. You earned that promotion through integrity and excellence. That's what we value at Apex." David hesitated, then said, "I saw Chike last month. He's still in Port Harcourt. He's different now, quieter, humble. He asked about you and the baby." Amara felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, just mild curiosity. "How is he?" "Struggling," David admitted. "But he's working hard. He actually apologized to me for taking credit for my work, said he was trying to make amends where he could." "That's good," Amara said simply. "I hope he finds peace." And she meant it. Holding her daughter, surrounded by people who genuinely respected her, Amara realized she harbored no more bitterness. Chike had taught her valuable lessons about recognizing her worth and never diminishing herself for anyone. Those lessons had been painful but necessary. The evening's program began. Amara handed Zara to her mother and took the stage to thunderous applause. "Thank you all for being here tonight," Amara began, her voice clear and confident. "5 years ago, when I inherited Apex Innovations, I made a choice that many thought was foolish. I decided to work anonymously within my own company, to see it from the ground up, to understand every level of operation." She paused, scanning the crowd. "That experience taught me more than any business degree ever could. I learned that true character reveals itself when people think no one important is watching. I learned that kindness, integrity, and hard work matter more than connections or smooth talking. And I learned that the people who truly build companies aren't always the ones in corner offices. They're the ones in warehouses, logistics departments, and support roles who do their jobs with excellence every single day." Applause erupted. Amara saw several employees wiping their eyes. "Tonight, I'm announcing several initiatives," Amara continued. "First, Apex Innovations will implement a profit-sharing program for all employees who have been with us for over 2 years. Your hard work built this company's success. You deserve to share in it." The applause grew louder. "Second, the Ademi Foundation is expanding. We're launching a mentorship program pairing successful professionals with young people from underprivileged backgrounds. We're also creating a support network for single parents in the workplace, including childcare assistance and flexible scheduling." Amara felt emotion rising in her throat, but pushed through. "Finally, I want to speak directly to anyone who's ever felt overlooked, underestimated, or dismissed," she said, her voice strong. "Your worth isn't determined by other people's inability to see it. You are valuable, you are capable, and you deserve respect and opportunities. Don't ever let anyone make you feel small." The standing ovation was deafening. Amara stepped off the stage, collected Zara from her mother, and moved through the crowd accepting congratulations. Later that evening, as the party wound down, Marcus approached her. "There's someone here who'd like to speak with you," he said carefully. "You can say no." Amara's stomach tightened. "Chike." "No," Marcus said. "Vanessa Akali." Amara's eyebrows rose. "Really?" "She says she has something to tell you. I can send her away if you prefer." Amara considered. Part of her wanted nothing to do with the woman who'd helped destroy her marriage. But curiosity won out. 5 minutes, Amara said, in the private lounge. Vanessa looked dramatically different from the arrogant woman who'd stood in Amara's bedroom 6 months ago. Her designer clothes were gone, replaced by a simple dress. Her makeup was minimal. Her entire demeanor was subdued. "Mrs. Adami," Vanessa said quietly, "thank you for seeing me." "You have 5 minutes," Amara replied, standing while holding Zara protectively. "I came to apologize," Vanessa said. "Not because I expect forgiveness or want anything from you, just because you deserve to hear it. What I did was cruel, calculated, and wrong. I helped destroy your marriage for my own selfish reasons. I mocked you when you were vulnerable. I tried to get you fired from your own company. I was terrible." Amara remained silent, waiting. "After you fired me, my life fell apart," Vanessa continued. "My family was humiliated. My father cut me off financially. I couldn't find work anywhere in Lagos. Your influence reaches far. I had to move to Abuja and start over with nothing." She looked down at her hands. "It was the best thing that ever happened to me," Vanessa said. "For the first time in my life, I had to survive on my own merit. No family connections, no shortcuts, no using people. I got a job as a receptionist, worked my way up to office manager. I'm earning my success honestly now." "I'm glad you found your way," Amara said neutrally. "I also wanted you to know, Chike really is trying to change," Vanessa said. "I ran into him 2 months ago. He's working hard, keeping his head down. He told me he goes to therapy now, trying to understand why he sabotaged his own life. He asked about you and the baby. He seems genuinely remorseful." "That's good for him," Amara said, "but it doesn't change anything between us." "I know," Vanessa said quickly. "I'm not here to advocate for him. I'm just telling you what I observed. And I wanted to say, seeing you tonight, seeing how you've thrived despite what we did to you, it's inspiring. You didn't let us break you. You became even stronger." Amara looked at this woman, who'd once been her enemy, and saw only a broken person trying to rebuild. It was hard to hate someone so clearly defeated by their own choices. "I appreciate you coming," Amara said. "I hope you continue building a life you're proud of. But Vanessa, I need you to understand something. I didn't thrive despite what you and Chike did. I thrived because I finally stopped shrinking myself to make other people comfortable. You didn't break me. You freed me." Vanessa nodded, tears in her eyes. "I understand, thank you for your time." After Vanessa left, Amara sat in the quiet lounge, Zara sleeping against her chest. She thought about the past year, the betrayal, the pain, the anger, and finally, the peace. Her phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. "There's a young woman outside asking about the Foundation's mentorship program. She's a single mother, just graduated university. Says she heard your speech and wants to apply. Should I send her away since the event is over?" Amara smiled and typed back. "Absolutely not. Bring her to me. This is exactly why we're here." 10 minutes later, Amara was talking with 23-year-old Blessing, a computer science graduate with a 6-month-old son and dreams of working in tech. Amara listened to her story, saw herself in this young woman's determination, and made a decision. "The mentorship program officially launches next month," Amara said. "But I'd like to offer you something now. An entry-level position at Apex Innovations with full benefits and childcare support. Are you interested?" Blessing's eyes filled with tears. "Yes, oh my God, yes. Thank you, Mrs. Adami." As Amara watched Blessing leave, practically floating with joy, she felt something settle deep in her soul. This was her purpose. Not revenge, not bitterness, but lifting others up, creating opportunities. being the support for someone else that she'd had to become for herself. Marcus appeared beside her. "You're going to change that young woman's life." "Maybe," Amara said. "Or maybe I'm just giving her the chance to change it herself. That's all anyone really needs, a chance and someone who believes in them." She looked down at Zara, who was waking up, her tiny eyes blinking open. "Your mama learned that the hard way," Amara whispered to her daughter. "But I'm going to make sure you grow up knowing your worth from day one. You'll never have to shrink yourself for anyone." Zara made a soft cooing sound, and Amara's heart swelled. Outside the hotel windows, Lagos glittered with possibilities. Somewhere in Port Harcourt, Chike was probably lying awake, thinking about everything he'd lost. Somewhere in Abuja, Vanessa was rebuilding from the ground up. And here in this moment, Amara was exactly where she was meant to be. Not bitter, not broken, not waiting for anything. Just whole, just herself, just beginning. The next chapter of her life stretched out ahead, full of promise. And for the first time in years, Amara couldn't wait to see what came next. Because she'd learned the most important lesson of all. The right people would see her worth without her having to prove it, and the wrong people would lose her by failing to appreciate what they had. She'd lost a husband, but gained herself. And that was the greatest victory of all. And that's the end of this incredible journey. What did you think of Amara's story? Did justice prevail? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If this story touched your heart, smash that like button and subscribe to Stories by Ajibs for more amazing stories like this. Turn on notifications so you never miss our next upload. Share this complete story with your friends and family. Everyone needs to see this. What story should we tell next? Comment your suggestions. Thank you so much for watching, and remember, know your worth and never let anyone make you feel small.